used to think healing was supposed to sound heroic, like victory speeches, like medals hitting a wooden table, like somebody finally saying, "You made it." But healing sounded more like silence, like sitting in the truck too long after work, because home felt safer when the engine was still running. Like staring at a grocery store aisle, trying to remember why your heart suddenly started racing. Like waking up at 2:13 in the morning, sweating through memories you never asked to keep. See, they trained us to survive the battlefield, but nobody really taught us how to survive ourselves afterward. Nobody talked about how trauma follows you home wearing civilian clothes, how it hides in fireworks, crowded rooms, empty bottles, divorce papers, missed phone calls, and the sentence, "I'm fine." Especially that sentence. I know veterans who carried entire teams on deployment, but struggle to carry groceries inside the house now. Men and women who could navigate chaos overseas, but can't navigate their own thoughts when the room gets quiet. And still, they wake up. Still, they fight. That matters. You hear me? That matters. Because hope isn't always loud. Sometimes hope is just making the appointment, answering the phone, talking for the first time, saying, "No, I don't think I'm okay." That's courage too. Maybe even the purest kind. See, the world loves the image of the warrior, but healing asks something harder. It asks the warrior to become human again, to let people in, to trust again, to stop apologizing for wounds nobody can see. And that process, it's ugly sometimes. There are setbacks, bad nights, anger that shows up uninvited, days where depression feels heavier than body armor ever did. But there are also moments, small moments, where light gets through. A kid's laugh, a sunrise after a sleepless night, brothers and sisters sitting around a table finally telling the truth, a stranger saying, "Me too." That's where healing begins. Not in pretending the trauma never happened, but in realizing the trauma doesn't get to write the ending. You survived war. You survived loss. You survived becoming someone you barely recognized. Now comes the hardest mission of all, believing you deserve peace too. And maybe peace doesn't mean forgetting. Maybe peace is learning that your scars are not proof you're broken. They're proof you kept going. So to every veteran still fighting battles nobody sees, you're not weak.
Welcome in, Natalie.
Hey, James.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, good. We revamped this series, brought it into StreamYard. Kind of excited about that.
Yeah.
And today's a special day as well. It's a day of remembrance, but it's also while a lot of people are celebrating Father's Day, a lot of our families are missing loved ones. So it's really important to talk about the other side of this.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to do today. We wanted to bring you in and get, let's learn about Daniel, learn about some of the challenges and setbacks, and learn about some of the lessons that you've learned through this grief process. But before we do that, I do want to thank our sponsors, Mari Bennett with Realty One Group Inclusion. We will update her card. She's no longer a Homes for Heroes and affiliate, but she is still with Realty One Group Inclusion. You can reach her at 253-363-5754. Outstanding realtor in our area, and she does offer military, veteran, and first responder discounts. So if you're looking to buy a house or sell your house in the Savannah, Georgia area, Mari Bennett is an excellent realtor. She supports a lot of organizations like ours and other veteran groups. So please give her a call. She's outstanding. So we want to, what we want to go into a little bit what Deterrence Through Truth is, because you're aware of our programs, but maybe some of the people that may watch this later on may not know exactly what Deterrence Through Truth is. And so we just want to go into that real quick. Deterrence Through Truth, this is just not a series, and this is a lifeline. So behind every loss to suicide, there is a family left carrying the weight of that absence. Mothers, fathers, spouses, children. These are the warriors who remain, often fighting for silent battles nobody sees. This interview series was created to give those voices a place to be heard. Raw, honest, and unfiltered. Because truth has the power to break stigma, open conversations, and save lives. So, why is the Deterrence series so important? Because a mother who has lost a child is 2 times more likely to lose her own battle with mental health. A widow or intimate partner that has lost a spouse is 3 times more likely to face that same internal war. And because the children of our veterans and first responders aren't excluded from this, they are at a higher risk due to repeated trauma, PTSD, exposure in the home, cultural barriers to mental health care, and even an increased access to firearms and let's be honest, the instability of frequent moves and long-term separations from their parents. So these aren't just the statistics. Deterrence Through Truth, these are the families, these are their voices. These are the futures that we still have to protect. And so we exist to do exactly that. We're going to amplify the voices of surviving families. We're going to honor their loved ones, give their loved ones purpose, connection, and strength in the aftermath of a loss to suicide. So when families like you speak, you're not just sharing your story. You're helping someone else who may have to go down this path. Either they're already on this path, or they don't know it yet, but they're going to have to go down this path. So we do this series on the 3rd Sunday of every month. If you're interested, if you've lost a warrior to suicide and you're interested in telling your story, please email us at james@heroesinthesky.org, and we can get you scheduled so you can tell your story as well. And just, we just one more time want to extend our sincere gratitude to Mari Bennett, our title sponsor, because without her, we could not do what we do. So, Miss Natalie Brett, who are you here to honor today?
My husband, Daniel Brett.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got a good show today. We're gonna go into some details, but I've got a few videos that I kind of want to play just real quick, just to set the tone. And I don't think it's a video you've seen yet, and just to bring people in to the emotional piece of what the reality of this is. And so I'm going to play that real quick, and then we're going to jump right into your story, Daniel's story, and we'll go from there. But so we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to list about a 3-minute break. We'll play this video, and then we're going to come right back.
Sounds good.
We've been taught to keep it buried deep. Hold the line, don't let them see. Say I'm fine, just play the part, while it's tearing at your heart. But the truth don't fade when it's locked away. It gets louder every single day. And the strongest ones you've ever known were never meant to stand alone. If you're feeling it now, don't look away. There's power in the words you're scared to say. We're breaking the silence together right now. No more I'm fine, just to get through the crowd. We speak it out loud, we stand our ground. There's strength in the truth we finally found. You don't have to carry it all on your own. There's a place right here, you've got a home. If you're ready to talk, we're ready to hear. We're breaking the silence and we're still here. We're still here. Oh. This is for the ones who held it in, wore the weight beneath their skin. For the families trying to see what the silence used to be. We don't need perfect, we don't need clean. We need real, we need seen. Every story, every voice has the power to give someone a choice. Yeah, the hardest step is letting it show, but healing starts when we let it be known. We're breaking the silence together right now. No more hiding the hurt, no more backing down. We lift each other, we don't let go. We fight for the ones who don't yet know. If you're ready to talk, we're already near. You're not alone, we're still here. This is how it changes. One voice becomes two.
All right. I know that one's going to hit the feels and the emotions, but we want people to know the warriors that we're advocating for, the voices that we're amplifying, and the reasons that their service and sacrifice still needs to be recognized.
Yeah.
Yes. So today's Father's Day. I know that's a rough day.
Yeah.
And the only thing I wanted to read like a special thing for Father's Day, because you and many other families have empty chairs today that shouldn't be empty, but they are. And so we want to dedicate this episode today to all our fathers. So for many, Father's Day is a day of joy and celebration. But for other families, it is a quiet, aching reminder of a dad, child, or loved one who is no longer here because of suicide. Today, we want you to know that you are seen, your love is real, and your grief is valid. If this day is heavy for you, please give yourself permission to feel whatever you feel. Please, there is no right way to grieve. There is no timeline for healing. You carry both the depth of your pain and the depth of your love, and your love will always matter. To every parent, child, spouse, or partner, sibling, battle buddy, and friend missing someone this Father's Day, just know you are not alone. Reach out if you need support. If it's a direct emergency, please call 911 or 988. And then if you are a family that's lost a warrior to suicide and you're stuck in that grief journey and you do not know where to go, please visit heroesinthesky.org. We do have a family outreach resiliency panel, which Natalie is a part of, that they will walk you through those grief stages if you do not know how to, if it's new to you or you're just lost or it's overwhelming. Whatever the case may be, we have a panel of experts that have lost warriors to suicide that'll walk you through it. So, welcome in, Natalie. Let's get started with your story, who you are, and let's go tell us a little bit more about who Daniel was behind the uniform and what his service looked like when he took the uniform off.
So I'm Natalie Brett, and of course my husband's Daniel Brett. He served right under 10 years as a military police officer in the United States Army. So I have a little bit of a different perspective on it because Daniel and I have known each other since we were like 12, 13 in junior high. So I've known him for a super long time. So I've known him before the uniform and I knew him after the uniform. Didn't know him a whole lot during the uniform. We got together the last like 18 months of his active duty service. But he was just, even in childhood, his teenage years, and even after the fact that he came home, he was the most loving, genuine, selfless person that I've ever met. He was one of those that if you needed something, he would give you the shirt off his back. If you needed a couple bucks, he would give it to you. If you needed a ride, he would give it to you. I mean, nothing stood in his way to help somebody. He wasn't a protector just of me and my kids and our family, but he was a protector of all. Even after he came home, he was a security director for a Marriott hotel, and there had been some situations that have arose with violence, with active shooters. And let me tell you, that man didn't think about just me and the kids and to make sure he came home. He went into active duty mode. He's like, I don't care what I got to do. If I lose my own life, I'm going to protect everybody in this hotel. And he was just, he was, he took care of his mom. He would drive by her house after work and take her trash out, just to take her trash out. He just took care of everybody. I just think he got to the point where he lacked really caring of himself. I took care of him as his wife and partner, but he really didn't take care of himself. He didn't know when to put on the brakes and say no, or, hey, I need a timeout, or let me take care of me for a minute. He didn't have that ability. And unfortunately, he and I were so much alike. And I think that's why we really worked. We were both Aries and just both strong-headed and stubborn. And somehow in this crazy world, we made it work. You will never find, well, maybe two people, his ex-wife and her mother, but you will never find anybody else in this world that will say a bad or negative thing about my husband. I mean, you heard it through Facebook posts, you heard it in the celebration of life, and everybody just loved him. He was just a lovable guy. He could be intimidating at times, but he was lovable, and he was the best dad. And just overall, just amazing human being. He had the strength. He had the fortitude. He was a hero. He was, he had that protector mode. Like everything you want or could dream in a husband, I had.
Yeah, when we talk about Father's Day, it's really awesome to hear when the great fathers out there, because a lot of us on Father's Day, we not all of us see Father's Day as the same, and unfortunately families like yours who have an empty chair, or even I like to talk about the fathers who may not have the best relationship with their kids, or that really weighs on them mentally. Those fathers that did try, or for whatever reason, it just there's a connection, there's a disconnect there between the kids, and it weighs heavily. And so we really appreciate hearing stories about Daniel and other fathers like him that were exemplary fathers.
Yeah, and he with his older son, he was being alienated from his oldest son. And there were times that, like for example, his high school graduation, he's like, to hell or high water, I'm going to that graduation. I don't care if I was invited or not, I'm going. I need to be
Right.
there for my son. And
Right.
he would take off work. He would make the effort. He would drive 6 hours to Mississippi, and he was going to be there.
Yeah.
And that's just how he was.
And it takes fathers like that to set the example and to give other fathers like us, like myself and others, hope to what we could be. We carry a lot of weight, and D'Angelo, our late co-founder, was another one.
Yeah.
Just exemplary father. Like if I wish I could have I wish I would have just listened to him a little bit more and been more the father he was to my kids, because I'd be a completely different person.
Yeah.
And we celebrate those loved ones lost today. And we didn't lose D'Angelo to suicide, but unfortunately he was taken from us.
Tragically,
But
yeah.
but on this Father's Day, we're keeping his memory alive with that empty chair, and keeping Daniel's memory alive. And we're appreciative of families like yours that come on here and open yourselves up. Because one of the things, like what we read in the intro, was you've been through this grief already, and it still hurts. But the impact you're making on other people who may just started this journey and have no idea where to go.
Yeah.
No idea what to do. They maybe just lost a warrior to suicide, and they are so lost because you know firsthand how confusing and overwhelming death notifications, all the paperwork and all how overwhelming that can get fast.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a lot of families that are probably, unfortunately, but with the epidemic that we've got, losing 44 veterans a day, are going to have to face that reality that you've already faced.
Yeah.
And these conversations, we hope, will give them some kind of light and some kind of help and assistance. But also, the reasons I like having these conversations with you and these families, that I think about the warriors that are in a dark place, that may be watching this, that may be around their families and have not told anybody, but they're struggling, and they're that close to making that decision not to be here. If they hear your story, if they hear the challenges, if they hear what your family has gone through in the wake of a suicidal loss, then maybe they'll stay. Maybe they'll choose to stay so their families don't have to go through what you're describing. Yeah. And that's our goal for this series. It's deterrence. The raw realities of suicide, the truth, and then we want to produce deterrence for it. So you talked about the kind of man Daniel was, but so what were some of the invisible wounds that you noticed once he served in the armed forces, in the army, and then he came home, and we have those so-called scars that you can't see. So what were some of those unseen wounds that you started noticing in Daniel?
So, to the normal person with Daniel walking down the street, you would never known he'd served in combat. You would have never known he had PTSD. I mean, he just looked like the run-of-the-mill dude, great guy. When we were out together, I mean, it was small things. It was the walking fast in tight, crowded public places. Always sitting, facing the door. Just always being alert, on guard. Just small things that when you're a military spouse or a veteran spouse, that you're like, I already know where I'm going to sit because he's going to sit there, or I need to have my running shoes on because I know it's going to be crowded today and we're going to be walking fast. But there had been a few other different situations that we were in that he had more of an episode, and he did verbalize that. And it's like, okay, let's get out of here. Let's get out of the situation. And later on, he would say, hey, babe, like, this is why I acted this way. So just so you know, hopefully we can avoid this situation. And some of and it was some things that happened during combat, which I get, and I will gladly take on that because I'm that kind of person. I can digest it and deal with it, and like I want to make sure that we keep you safe and don't have those episodes. But I think looking back, and that whole hindsight's 2020, that he kept a lot of it in. He didn't tell me a lot. He didn't want to burden me with a lot. I think a lot of it was a lot of anxiety that he had due to his PTSD, stress at work. Again, he didn't want to burden me, so I knew some of it, but he didn't tell me all of it. The months leading up to his suicide, again, looking back at it, and also taking a suicide prevention class like I have, I picked up, I saw, and I was like, and it hit me during that class, like, this was so minute, but they were there. The signs were there, and I missed them. And that was a hard thing to digest. He quit working out. He hadn't worked out in months. His sleep was way off. But there was so much going on in that time. We were in the middle of a litigation with his first ex-wife, going to court over the oldest son that had just turned 18. We just transferring from one job to a new job, and figuring that out, things going wrong with work, and just so much happening during that few months that he was overloaded. And about a week and a half before he died, he came to me, and he's just like, he looked defeated. And I'm a fixer, so I was trying to help him with the problem, but again, I didn't know how. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't have the knowledge. I say I was naive about it. I just was trying to fix the problem as best as I knew how. But he did tell me, like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Like, I'm struggling with the stuff at work. I'm feeling like a failure. I don't know I can't fix it. I don't know what to do. There was just, again, taking that suicide prevention class and then hearing some of these key words that I remember him saying was like, holy crap, I wish I had this class back then. I wish I would have known, because I could have helped him more. He would have probably still been here. So it's but that's where I have to look at my own self and say I didn't have those tools, and I did the best I could with what I knew at the time.
Right.
And that's why I'm doing these. I've taken that suicide prevention class. I'm learning more about suicide and what more of those minute signs are, so I can help others.
Yeah.
But he just didn't have the, what you call it, like typical like outburst, or what most civilians think a veteran with PTSD is like an alcoholic or a druggie, or none of that. The man hardly even drank.
Yeah.
But he didn't have, it was all more internal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm finding out is a lot of it. There's more of widows like me coming out with their stories where it was a hidden, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they're gone. And you're like, what just happened?
Yeah. So you touched on something that's really important. It's not the reality of this loss, the reality of this grief that drives these emotions is not what people see in public. Yeah. We tell that all the time. And I'm not going to go too far in my story because I'm not taking the thunder away from you, because this is your story about Daniel. But one of the things I did when I was really struggling, it was unseen to the public eye, because in the public, I went to work, I went to the gym, I did everything that people expected me to do. The only difference is when I got home behind closed doors is when I started abusing sleeping pills and doing things I shouldn't do over this vicious cycle of 2 to 3 years because I was mentally miserable and just unstable. And so a lot of the times, if you're listening, this is not what you see in public you need to be worried about. It's the little stuff at home that's different that you need to, when you start noticing those, to say something. Because it is the small stuff that it's not advertised. But one of the ones too I want to say is you've done a lot of advocacy after his passing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we tell our families is, I know you say that you wish you would have had the education because you maybe could have done something or done more, but you can't carry that over your shoulder, because in the end of the day, when we lose our loved ones to this, a lot of the times there's not anything you can do.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're physically there in the moment with them to stop them, to disrupt that cycle, sometimes it's too late.
Yeah, and I wasn't there with him. He was, and that's he called me, and that's again a guilt and a regret that I have to carry. Which, I mean, that I went to Boston, Massachusetts for 2 weeks for major intensive therapy because of what this has caused me and done to me.
Mm-hmm.
With the trauma, they diagnosed me again with PTSD. You know, I have nightmares. I can't sleep. I mean, all the things. And
Yeah.
it's,
Well, one of the things is the standard military culture that I came up in, that he came up in. There needs to be some changes, because how do you think that culture of, if you're asked for help, if you become a sick call ranger, you're weak, or if you ask for help, you're weak. How do you think that affected him and so many others who are in our military ranks that have lost this internal war? What role did that play?
I think, I don't think I guess with him, he was a little bit different because right towards the end, after he got back from his last tour to Korea, he came back and he was on desk duty. So he had a little bit of time to
Right.
adjust down to an extent, I guess. He was at Fort Leonard Wood, and and I was with him during this time of him getting discharged. They did help support him. I think more on a job level, and trying to get his disability, but as far as like a mental health perspective, they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel just got lucky with, when, of course, he had me to come home to, and a whole pre-done family per se, because I have 4 children. And he got lucky because before he even was discharged from the Army, he already had a job. He already had a job lined up to come when he came to Texas. So I say he was blessed, and he was one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
But as far as like them preparing him, I mean, he was prepared, but not in a mental health aspect of it.
That's what I was getting to, is a lot of the efforts and energies that our chain of commands are given to our soldiers getting out is resume work and stuff like that for your career and your our education. If you want to continue furthering your education, they give you the resources for that, of how to use your GI Bill. But I think that's one of the shortcomings, is we need to start identifying therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists that take TRICARE, or whatever insurance you have, or whatever your situation is. Everybody's different, but they should be given these soldiers that are getting out, because the retention NCO knows they're not staying in. They know that months in advance. So why can't we give these soldiers a list? Hey, these are the therapists in your area. This is what they specialize in. Let us know if you need help getting in contact with them. That way, when they get out, they don't feel like they're so just lost, and they don't. Oh, well, I don't know who takes my insurance, or because you would think that sounds something so small,
Mm-hmm.
but when you talk about small tasks, those small tasks become larger tasks when you're talking about a person getting out of the military. And this is why. For however long you served, you were given the exact uniform to wear, what time to be there, what you were supposed to do. They gave you a blueprint of everything they wanted you to do. And all you had to do was follow orders.
Right.
When you get out, they don't there's not anyone there. This is where you go file your taxes. This is how you file your taxes. The little stuff that you would think would be so small and so easy are sometimes they create problems for our soldiers because they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And
And again, I that's look, as you're saying that and looking at that, yeah, like I'm the one that took initiative to, hey babe, let's set up a time. We got to go file our taxes. He had no clue. I said, I need X, Y, and Z. And I mean, he went with me. I didn't go do it by myself. I made him go with, like, he went with me. But yeah, if I wasn't in the picture, and if he had gotten out, didn't have everything already lined up, and he had to, say, example, go move in and live with his mom, or I don't know how long he would have made it.
Yeah, it's hard, and it's these little bitty things that you see that the regular civilian sees as, oh, that's so easy. He's an adult. He's got that. That's not the case in a lot of these things, because they train you to go to battle. They train you to go serve this country. They train you to do all these things. But what they don't train you to do is how to think independently. When someone's not giving you the instructions, oh, you're going to be here at this time. This is your uniform. Blah. And when you get out, they just hand you that DD-214 and say, okay, bye. Like, so you have no structure. You have to rebuild your structure and your discipline. And it's hard sometimes.
And that was when he went to work. He had that structure. He managed a whole hotel.
Right.
And he had meetings at, 9:00 in the morning, and his whole day was planned out exactly the way it needed to be. But it's when he got home, he tried to be structured, or he tried to,
yeah.
But again, he was one of the lucky ones to get out, already have a job lined up. He didn't have to use his TRICARE. He didn't deal with the VA. We paid money and had really, really good insurance. And that's where, because of that, when he did die, I had to come back and I had to fight. I had to fight for benefits. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So you're talking about the VA, like Champ VA, like you carry that now, right?
Yes. I have Champ VA right now. That's a whole I mean, I stay on it because I'm the spouse, but with kids turning 18 and going to college, it's like they drop and you got to add them, and they drop and they got to add, oh, we dropped your daughter, several months ago. I'm like, oh, why? She's been in college. Like it's so it turns around and gets put on us with all this stress. And what I've realized going through this whole process is when you have your veteran with PTSD that's struggling, you have a widow that mirrors all that. We are just like you veterans that are struggling. And when they say, and you've said it before, when they die and they die by suicide, literally it gets passed down. And that is the 100% truth.
Yeah.
We get stuck with the PTSD. We get stuck with all the things that they carried that now we have to pick up and deal with.
Yeah.
If they were struggling with work, or if they were struggling with family stuff, like now we have to pick it up as solo parents. We have to, my situation, I'm going back to school at 46 years old, or I was going to have to go to work, and I was going to have to deal with work stress, and now taking care of all these kids as a solo parent. Like so that's very much the reality of it.
Well, and this is the reality for so many people, because we talk about 44 veterans a day, but what you also don't talk about is the aftermath and the people around you that this affects. And I'm excited because, we here as in the Sky started using these studies a couple of years ago with newer numbers, and now a lot of other organizations are using the 44 a day, and it's awesome. At least people are using the correct
Yeah.
updated numbers. But the point is, when you lose a veteran to suicide, like you're talking, that's 44 a day, and then so 44 that's 44 veterans, so their families are automatically affected, at least 5 family members, and then they got battle buddies, they got friends, they got best, you got, and then there's another 135 people in your community that are going to be affected by veteran suicide. So when we look at the final numbers, we saw it kind of in the intro. It's 44 a day. It's almost 30,000 people affected by veteran suicide a day. People affected is 30,000. That's over 208,000 people a week, and that's almost over 10 million people a year that are directly affected by veteran suicide. And what the point of this was, your family, unfortunately, is not going to be the only one going through what you're describing.
Right.
It's going to be there. And so what this is, the point is, what can we highlight for our surviving families? Maybe some of those experiences behind closed doors that you kind of picked up on, that you see now, that they may be facing, to give them the red flag that they need to do something now, that it's getting bad. What are some of those, some of those emotional or behavioral changes you noticed in Daniel, like leading up to losing him?
Yeah, it was definitely like just your overall life or environment. Try to, again, like with ours, we were going through court. He was switching the jobs. There was so much that we were dealing with the second ex-wife, with visitation with the youngest son that was here. We had him for summer visitation the day he died. Just try to minimize as much stress as possible, if that's possible.
Yeah.
He was just going through so much. Or if you're having to go through it, make sure you got support. If you're like, hey, there's a lot going on in life right now, let's take a time out and maybe go seek some professional help. Let's take a break. Let's go for a weekend, whatever it needs to be done, but be aware of the pressure and the stressors going on in life. The two, I guess, things that were out of character for him was his sleep pattern. And that, I know, but I related to him as the change in jobs, and things were crazy at work. So, I mean, literally as soon as he came home, he would go to sleep and be out, like, until the next morning, until his alarms went off. And I didn't want to bother him. I would try to wake him up. He was out and would not wake up. I was like, okay, I'll just leave him be, and he probably needs to rest. Quit going to the gym. But again, the work relates to the lack of sleep or the sleep being off. So of course he's not going to want to go to the gym. So I just connected it all, but it's, and just, if they do come to you and are verbalizing concerns or stressors, like, kind of figure out more, dig deeper. It's like they taught us in the suicide prevention class. Ask the questions. Don't just try to be okay, let's be the fixer. Ask the questions. Start getting down deeper to the bare bones of what's really going on.
Right.
And again, I wouldn't know this if I had not taken that suicide prevention class.
Right.
And the one thing is just their appearance. If they're just really not taking care of themselves anymore, if they're just, letting themselves go. And the one big thing that a lot of people say is the eyes. Just really look in their eyes, and you can just see if something's off. And when I go back and look at pictures those last few months, like you can tell. You can tell. He just had like, there was just something. They weren't as bright and shiny, and it just, you can when you see it, you can tell. You know.
Yeah.
And it's just something like that. You just when you have a veteran, you just have to be very aware. And a lot of us don't know or don't have the tools.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I have been put in that situation where now this is my life where I've had to go get the tools so I can do what I'm doing and I can help other families or help other veterans. Or if a family comes to me and says, hey, I know my veteran's struggling, again, what are things I can look for? Or what can we do?
Yeah.
But I've had to learn that along the way the last 3 years.
Right.
It's
And
nothing that's just given to you or you read in a handbook.
Yeah. And this is important information being passed down directly from you who's lived it to those who are going to listen to this, to those that do have veterans and first responders, and how the environment will change behind closed doors. And that's really big. And this is the hold everything together phase, basically, for that spouse or that loved one. You know, you've already said it before. You're expected to not only do, if you have a job, you do your job, but you're also expected to hold it together for your veteran and be there for your veteran. And that's hard sometimes, especially if you don't know how to, if you're struggling to connect with them.
Yeah.
You know? So,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
I said, like, we had a really great marriage. And it was, I guess, one of my big things was we could fight and get through anything together. We had been through several court battles with the same ex-wife. We had been through visitation issues. We had been through so much together that we fought together. We fought the world together. And it's just like, why couldn't we fight this together? If you were really dealing with this, why couldn't we fight this together? The one thing that was so important.
Yeah.
And I think it was a burden. I think it was really a burden issue. He didn't want to burden me with it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the day that the day that everything changed. The unfortunate day that you got the notification, and then also after that day in disbelief that you felt. What were some of the challenges that you had to start dealing with? As you know, maybe guilt, anger, like what ifs. What did that look like for you the day that you lost them?
When you get those death notifications, they're not always in a pretty package that you see in the movies. They can be chaotic. They can be all over the place. It's just, anyway, from what I know in the police report and text messages, I know he died probably like at 8:30 that morning. He wasn't found until like 9:30, sitting in his truck in a parking garage in the hot Texas sun in July. I do have the body cam footage, so I know it's all in there. I've seen it. I was not notified until like 1:20 that afternoon. And it wasn't the detectives trying to notify me like, hey, your husband's deceased. He shot himself. This was just like, hey, I need you to get home. I'm gonna meet you there. And then it was a whole back and forth between Daniel's coworker and the detective about like, she needs to know. And he's like, I'm not going to tell her. She needs to get home. And this coworker's like, no, you tell her, I'm going to tell her. Well, the coworker ended up telling me while I'm at work, 45 minutes away, Daniel shot himself. thank God I had support and somebody to drive me 45 minutes back to my house. The detective, we had set up for him to meet me there about 3:30 because my brain just went into what the fuck, let's figure this out. And I don't know how, like, I was in shock, obviously, and I don't know how I did it. But in that 45 minutes, I called everybody I needed to call. Called like my ex-husband. I said, I do not want my children in my house when this detective comes to notify me. I had to and this was out really trying to tell anybody. I had to get my mother-in-law over to my house without telling her why. I'm having to come up with stories. I'm having to come up with lies. I'm trying to come up with situations where it's just me, my sister, my mother-in-law are at my house because my sister could get there a lot quicker. So I knew I had her to be able to be there when this detective shows up so we could figure out. I mean, obviously I already knew, but my mother-in-law didn't. And trying to figure everything out and plan it all out where the kids were not there. They were out of the house. It was a whole thing. And I don't know how I did it, but I did it. The detective shows up and is basically like, hey, here's my card. Here's his phones, his personal phone and his work phone. He's got some stuff in the Dallas Police Department property office or whatever that you can pick up at a later time, and we'll be in touch with other things like the police report and throughout the investigation, because here in Dallas County where he died, they consider it homicide until it is proven to be suicide. So they're like toxicology, like all the things, and that was pretty much it. Here's the stuff back. You can reach us. This is what we got to do. Sorry about your loss. Have a great day. That's about it. And this is where I get angry because the son of a bitch didn't show up till still an hour after we were supposed to meet. So guess who had to do the notifying to my mother-in-law?
Yeah.
Me and my sister were going back and forth, and we finally stepped outside, and I'm sitting there trying not to just break down. I'm trying to keep my shit together. And my sister finally takes me outside. She's like, Natalie, you gotta tell her. And I'm just like, how? So we go inside. She's sitting on the couch. I get on one side of her. My sister sits on the other. So we both hold her hand. And I have to look at my mother-in-law in the face and say, Daniel's dead. He shot himself. And of course, she went into shock.
Yeah.
And then once we kind of got everything done, everybody kind of started showing up shortly after that. I can't even remember who all showed up, but it was my ex-husband showed up. The kids finally ended up getting back to the house. Daniel's second ex-wife finally came up from a few hours away where they live to be with the youngest son. My grandma showed up. Just a lot of families showed up. And that was the hardest part. Is everybody was in my living room. And I had to tell my kids their dad was dead. And just to hear them scream and break down, and it was the most horrifying thing that I'll never forget.
Yeah. And this is the grief that people don't see. The public doesn't see the grief that involved when you lose an intimate partner. Your home has become an empty nest because you're missing a key person there that's not there anymore. And then you've already talked about it having to either go back to school, or because now you become the income source because you lose your partner. So you have to choose if you're going to go back to school to get a job or you're going to go back into the workforce.
Yeah.
And so, we've we've talked about a lot of the challenges you faced. We've talked about the notifications, how it's not always pretty. So, how do you feel? Because this is going to be important as we move forward in education and advocacy. How you feel how quick families become invisible when they lose a warrior to suicide? Like how quick that process happens.
Quicker than you really think. Yeah, I mean, I had, by the time Daniel died in the funeral, I had 3 weeks, so I had a lot of support. I mean, my one of my really good friends that works in the funeral home business, she took off work for 2 of those 3 weeks, and she was my chauffeur. She went to all the funeral planning stuff. Like she drove me around the cemetery, said, "Hey, this he has an option to be buried here. Do you want to be buried? Do you want him to be buried here?" Like we spent a lot of time together for several weeks, and that was the biggest blessing I had. She also had lost her cousin to suicide. He was a army veteran also, so she already had that experience. Of course, we had family and friends that helped. Like, for example, my sister helped with phone calls. I had somebody at the house that was helping, like, people bring in food. And again, that's 3 weeks. It's a pretty long period when you're doing with funeral stuff, but that's the norm for when you're doing with military burials, especially at a national cemetery. So I did have a lot of support for those weeks and through the funeral. Maybe up to a few months after the funeral, I was still getting cards in the mail, like phone calls, like just all the different things. And I think once you get to about 6 months, it's just really when people like kind of just start disappearing, more or less. Especially when you hit that year mark. For me, that was like the first year. I got a lot of unfortunately happy anniversaries when they knew it was my anniversary or the big days. I would get calls or texts or whatever. Now at almost 3 years, 3 years will be July 5th. I don't expect anybody to be texting or calling me at this point. I just don't even expect it anymore.
Yeah.
So that way, if I don't expect it, I can't get upset about it.
Yeah. And so many families like yours are dealing with that exact, I call it neglect, because it's just you're carrying the scars left of that veteran or first responder, and you're expected to hold it all together in your life now as you move forward. And it's when people quit checking on you, it
stings.
It does. It does. It does.
I just like right now we're partnering with Air Power Foundation and of course with Green Star Families of America that I'm with, and we're doing a walk for 22.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot to it. I'm going out and doing the walk, and we're taking donations and stuff like that. And what got to me is I made a post and I tagged all these people in it, and family, everything. And out of all the people I tagged and all the people I have on social media, very few donated. And it's not about a money amount. I don't care how much you donate. It's for the fact that you see me, you support me in what I'm doing, because I put my heart and soul to this, and this is what keeps me going.
Yeah.
And I had to state that in the post. Like, my mother-in-law donated. I'm like, thank you. But it's sad to see how many people don't support me. Even something so small as donating $5 or $10 to a walk I'm doing. That's my heart and soul.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurt. That really hurt, because I'm going to check every day. The lack of shares, the lack of the likes or love or encouragement. It's not about a monetary thing. It's about a support thing. And to see so many support people had lack of support for something I'm so passionate about hurt.
Yeah. It really is. And we we try to, that's one of the big reasons we advocate for our families, is just so we stay in that grief journey with you and other families, throughout the years, not just,
Yeah.
not when everybody, like you say, in the first 6 months to a year, when everyone's showing up to your house or trying to be there for you. So you we went through a good bit of this, but now we want to talk about the healing process, right?
Yeah.
So, what have you done to start healing yourself to get to where you are? And let's talk, we got about 5 to 10 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about more what Green Star found families are doing, and tell us about the bills y'all got introduced, and what's going on with that.
So, I guess my healing really started when I had to find my purpose, because I was fixing to take my own life. I was to that point. It just, everything hurt so bad, and I was really struggling. And again, lack of support. Um, and after I begged God and talked to Daniel and said, if I'm still supposed to be here, I need to find something. And literally just a week or so after that is when I got on TikTok and was found Matt, or I was actually on TikTok telling my story. I finally gotten up to the courage to tell my story, because that was part of my healing too. And I ran into Matt on TikTok, and he's like, I need you to be a part of this. And so we had a conversation, outside of social media, and it's like, this is what I asked for. And so that became my purpose and my passion, because telling my story and what I've gone through, and then the lack of support, the longer it's been, I know what it is like. I don't want another family have to go through that. And that's where I, with talking with Matt and getting in with Green Star, became the director of outreach, where I am the face of the support, and being able to help the families. If it's just they call and say, hey, I didn't know we could have burial benefits, or where can we go? Like, I've been through those resources. I know the resources, and I can pass those along to another family that may not know. Just like I'm involved with TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Survivors Program. I had no idea about TAPS until I was on a Facebook group that somebody said something, so I got involved with them. And they've been a godsend. And where was I going? My brain just went down. Widow's brain. Yes, we get widow's brain. What else did you ask me, James? Oh, you're muted.
You met Matt on TikTok.
Okay.
You got yourself, the healing journey started when you started telling his story.
Okay. Right.
And then you kind of learned about what TAPS was offering for families like yours.
Okay, yeah, that's, again, widow's brain. This is a real thing, along with premenopause and ADHD and all the things. So, like, it's normal. Yeah, getting involved with Green Star. So, Matt, now it was basically just us two going at it and meeting with, senators and congressmen and just all these things to push Green Star. So it's, our backbone is to help the families. It's to give support where support's not just there, to give the resources, so families like mine don't have to go through what we went through and be alone. In that, we have pushed for legislation to have a Green Star banner complementary to a Gold Star banner and a Blue Star banner. And our Green Star banner is specifically for veteran suicide. And it's given those families the recognition, like, hey, my loved one died by suicide. Because when I've gone to events, they recognize Gold Star families, which Gold Stars are usually are originally classified as a service member killed in action. That's a whole nother topic of blurred lines and how things are considered now. But when we go to events as a group of military loss survivors, they'll call out Gold Star. Gold Star families stand up. We're left there like, okay, well, our loved ones weren't Gold Star, they died by suicide, so that we kind of feel left out. We feel segregated, and we're not created equal, and that's not the way it should be. So that's where Matt came up with the Green Star banner to say, hey, we recognize you, you're still important, and we don't want your loved one to be honored by the way they died, but the way they lived. So right now we have a bill in legislation, and it's called HR 6022, and it's gotten a lot of bipartisan support. I think right now we have about 5 or 6 co-sponsors, so we're getting it really rolling. Pennsylvania has created their own Green Star bills. I think they have officially passed 2, and I think there's 2 more in the works that they're trying to pass. California has passed their own Green Star bills where they've made May 4th like Green Star Family Day. We're right now I'm with some other Texas widows, and we're really trying to push to get some stuff going on here in Texas. I even myself, because we're residents of Mansfield, Texas, that I got with some of I call them the veteran board here in Mansfield, because they have a big veteran group in Mansfield, and they created a Mansfield Veterans Memorial in a park, and it's amazing and beautiful. And I'm working with them to actually get a resolution down here in Mansfield for Green Star families. And it may be something simple. It may be like just a day, or it may be like a name on the building. I don't know what, we haven't gotten to that point, but we're in talks of doing a Green Star family resolution for the city of Mansfield, where we live. So we have a lot of big things in the works.
That's amazing to hear, to see the movement, and because Here Is in the Skies partnered with Green Star from the beginning, and see the continued growth between both has been fantastic. So we are going to try to close this out here, but as we close out, always we interview with final thoughts and final messages. And the message, you said it earlier, we at Heroes in the Sky are notorious for repeatedly saying one phrase, because we just feel it's so important. So if you are listening to this, wherever you are, if you're listening through it live, if you're listening through a replay, however you're hearing this message, you need to know, if you are a veteran or you are a first responder and you are contemplating suicide, listen to the families like Natalie. Listen to the families that have lost somebody to suicide, and see the grief that they go through. Because you will quickly see that when you take your life by suicide, those demons do not simply go away. They transfer directly to the loved ones you're trying to protect. And we need you to stay. We need you to stay another day. We're going back to, at the bottom when we go through this, as you're doing your message, there'll be a website. It's to our family outreach panel. If you find yourself in this situation where you have already lost a warrior to suicide, and you are lost and you don't know how to navigate the death benefits, the burial, what to expect from the coroner's reports, all of those little things, get a hold of us, go to our website. We'll connect you. Natalie is on that board right there, where she can walk you through the grief as well. So I'm going to put that up here, but as I'm doing that, can you give us a final message to those widows, children, and parents and families that are left behind that have lost a warrior to suicide?
Just from my experience, it's hard. You're going to have those thoughts of suicide yourself, especially when the dust settles and you're not being checked on or looked after. My biggest take is find your purpose. You have to find a purpose. You have to have a reason to live, and to go on. And when you are in those dark places yourselves, as a survivor, be spouse, children, whatever, go get help. I've been in therapy since a month after my husband died, and it and it at least gives me somebody to talk to. Since I was to the point where I couldn't talk to family or I couldn't reach out to friends, that at least gave me somebody to talk to during those months. I didn't meet James and get involved with Heroes in the Sky until 18 months or so. It's been a little over a year, so almost 2 years, close to 2 years. So that first 2 years, I didn't have James or Heroes in the Sky or Green Star, so I was on it myself. So that's one thing I did, is I had my therapist. So do all the things. It's tough, it's hard, and there's going to be those days that you're in a deep, dark, black hole. Just find a way to stay, and find the purpose. That was my biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for today. We've candid interviews, raw realities of suicide. Yeah. What families experience behind closed doors, the emotions, the grief, is the goal of this program, is for people to hear it directly from families of what suicide does to families in our community. And we're grateful for every family, just like yours, that not only opens up, but continues to advocate after the loss. And you've done that very well with Green Star. And so we appreciate that. We appreciate you. Looking forward to see what Green Star does in the future. Hope it gets bigger and better.
Oh, we're headed there.
There you go. There you go. So I'm going to close this out with a video. Hang out in the lobby when the video goes off. We'll end. But thank you for everybody listening. Thank you to our sponsor, Mari Bennett. We really appreciate your support. Her website right there is on the bottom. Realty One Group Inclusion. Her phone number's down there. If you're in the Savannah, Georgia area and you need a realtor, call her. She's fantastic. And so go visit our friend Mari. There's our website. So, all right, we're going to close out with a video, and we'll see you in the studio in a minute.
All right.
We've been taught to keep it buried deep. Hold the line, don't let them see. Say I'm fine, just play the part, while it's tearing at your heart. But the truth don't fade when it's locked away. It gets louder every single day. And the strongest ones you've ever known were never meant to stand alone. If you're feeling it now, don't look away. There's power in the words you're scared to say. We're breaking the silence together right now. No more I'm fine, just to get through the crowd. We speak it out loud, we stand our ground. There's strength in the truth we finally found. You don't have to carry it all on your own. There's a place right here, you've got a home. If you're ready to talk, we're ready to hear. We're breaking the silence and we're still here. We're still here. Oh, this is for the ones who held it in, wore the weight beneath their skin. For the families trying to see what the silence used to be. We don't need perfect, we don't need clean. We need real, we need seen. Every story, every voice has the power to give someone a choice. Yeah, the hardest step is letting it show, but healing starts when we let it be known. We're breaking the silence together right now. No more hiding the hurt, no more backing we're already near. You're not alone, we're still here. This is how it changes. One voice becomes two.